Welcome back everyone to my channel. And so in this video we'll be discussing about what is a variable, why is it called a variable, how to use a variable, and some rules to define a valid variable. So let's get started. Now before starting with variables, you must have an IDE or a text editor. In this case I'm using Jupyter Notebook. Now in case you don't have Jupyter Notebook, you just have to install it by typing pip install Jupyter Notebook. Now when you write this command, it will install Jupyter Notebook in your system, and after that you can use Jupyter Notebook. In my case I have already installed Jupyter Notebook, so I'm not gonna install it again. I'm just closing it. So after you have installed Jupyter Notebook, open it and you just have to create a file. First you have to create a folder in desktop or in anywhere you want. Then you have to create a new Python file by clicking this Python 3. It will create a .ipynb, and after that it will open a page in Chrome or your default browser. Now let's start with some basic arithmetic operations before learning variables. Now let me create a heading to make it interactive. So let me write basic arithmetic operations, and after that you have to press shift plus enter. It would be interpreted like this, and then we can write a basic arithmetic operation like 2 plus 3, it would give 5. These are the basic arithmetic operations like addition, then we have subtraction, then we can do negative subtraction like 3 minus 4, and after that there's multiplication, so 5 into 4 gives 20, and after that there is division. Now division has there's two ways to do a division. One is the normal division, and the second one is float division or integer division. So let's start with the normal division. So if I give 15 divided by 3, we thought that it would give 5, but it returned 5.0. so 5.0 is a floating point or real number. This is a normal division which always returns a decimal number. Now to get an integer number, you just have to give double division, which is called float division, and after that shift plus enter and we get 5. So after doing some basic arithmetical operations, we have forgot to do to find the remainder of a number. So to find the remainder, we just have to use the modulus operator, and the result should be 0. Yes, the result is 0. If we do 5 mod 2, the result should be 1, and like this it would be going on. Now our main topic was about variables. So variables in Python. So variables in Python. So what is a variable first? Now a variable is a container. If you have ever done algebra, we always use variables over there to solve some particular problems, like we say let x equals to 5, then we say let y equals to 6. Like that we do algebra. In the same way we can do it Python. The syntax is not that same, they're different, but we can implement variables in Python. So to define or to create a variable, we just have to think of a name like x. So x, and then the value we want to assign. So I want to assign, let's say 9. So x equals to 9. So when we assign x equals to 9, let's run this cell. So in Jupyter Notebook, every line is called a cell. So we have to press shift plus enter. After that, the interesting thing over here is that in the previous arithmetic operations, we have got an output. But in this operation, which is called an assignment operation, because we are assigning a value to a variable, so it's called an assignment operation. Here we haven't got any output. So after we have assigned a value to a variable, now let's see if the value is right or not. So if I say x and then run it, it has given me 9. So this is how we use a variable. Now the interesting fact about variables in Python and variables in Java or other languages except JavaScript, that we have to declare a type. So in Python we don't have to declare our type, as well as in JavaScript, but in JavaScript we have to write var like var my name, say 21st Century Corporation. In JavaScript we have to do like this, but in Python we don't have to do like this. We just have to think a name, let's say my name, and then we just write the value we want to assign. So in this case it's 21st Century Corporation. So this is my name, and if I press or run this cell, I don't get any error. So after that, if I run again, I've got the output I deserved. So in here it's 21st Century Corporation in quotation. Now if I want to remove the quotations, you have to print it. So print my name, the quotations has gone. This is the function of the print statement. Now what is a function? It's a quite vast topic and it's quite complex as well. So we'll learn this in the later videos, because we first need to learn about data types. So we have learned about assigning values to a variable, then assigning numbers to a variable, assigning strings to a variable. Now let's assign, or let's know the term variable, because we know the term variable but we don't know why is it called a variable. So a variable means that it can change its value. So if I say x equals to 5, so it shouldn't give me any error. So x is 5. After that, let me give a heading over here. So if I insert a new cell above, yes, insert cell above, and this cell I will do as heading, and this is checking if the name variable is correct, or in short terms we can give that why is it called a variable. So giving headings is very good, so it would be clear of why we are doing a particular thing. So why is it called a variable? So we have done x equals to 5. Now if we print x, we will get x as 5. Now if I assign something like 7, I haven't got an error. So this is why it's called a variable. But let's print it. So if I print x, it has given me 7, and it would give me 7 every time I print x. So 5 is now a garbage, and there's a concept of garbage collection, but we'll learn it later. So x is equals to 7, and the value of x is now 7 until it's changed. This is called a variable, and a constant is something which does not change. Like 7, we can't change 7 because 7 is 7, so it can't be changed. But the value of x can be changed. It can be changed from 7 to 5 or 5 to 9, anything it can be changed. Now can we change the type of the variable? Like x is now 7, so if I change to, let's say, 7.5, I haven't got an error. Again, I haven't got any error. So x, and after I print, I have got 7.5. Now to make it more interesting, let's assign a string to it. So let's say Facebook. So if I assign this string Facebook, and then if I run, would it give me any error? Let's see. No. So if I run X, yes, it has given me Facebook. So this means that a variable in Python can be changed, so its value can be changed as well as its type. Now comes the interesting fact. If you have ever noticed this series of writing code, we haven't declared a variable. Now declaring means the type, like x equals to 9. We haven't declared that it's int type or it's float type. We haven't declared that. Python is automatically detecting the type of the variable. Now this type of writing is called dynamic typing. But in other programming languages like C, C++ or Java, we have to declare type. Like let's say I want to create a float. So float x equals to 5.5 like this. We have to write. Now if I run this, I would get an error because Python will say not to do extra hard work which is there in C. So instead we can do like this, 5.5, and would then give an error. Now if I run X, it would give me the proper output. Now this equals to sign, this doesn't means is equals to. So X, or I should say equals to, does not mean is equals to. It means set to, is set to. So equals to does not mean equals to, it means set to. There is another called double equal to, which will be learning later, because the double equals to operator is a comparison operator which is used for comparison purposes. Now I'm not discussing about operators right now, because before learning operators we first have to know variables, which we have learned. But after variables we have to learn about data types, which we will be learning in a later video. So right now we have completed variables, but the main thing which is left is what are the rules to define a variable. So the first rule is that the name of a variable should contain letters or alphabets. Then it may contain an underscore, and it may contain a digit. Now what it should not contain? It should not contain white spaces like x2. It should not contain, or it is not a variable actually, so it should not contain white spaces. If you want to create a variable name x2, then just write x2 without any white space. It should not contain special characters. And the next thing is, when writing a variable, it should not start with a digit. It may start with an underscore, but it should not start with a digit like 2x. It should not start like that. It may start like x2, or let's say x5, like that it can start. So these are the valid variable names or rules. Now some valid variable examples are, let's say my name, or my var, or we can say var1. We can also give an underscore over here. So these are the valid variable names. Now some invalid variable names like 1a, or let's say percentage s, oh no, not percentage s, percentage gh, then let's say df space, or like this, d space f. These are the invalid variable names. Now we have learnt all about variables. Now the things which we can take fun of with variables are, there are some functions which we can use. So let me create a heading. So in Jupyter Notebook, here click heading, it will show a pop-up like this, okay, and I will create a heading of level 2 or height 2 or h2, whatever, and let's say interesting functions. So this is the topic, interesting functions, and there are two interesting functions. First one is type and second one is id. So these are the functions which we can use. So let's use the id function first, then we'll use the type function. So let's say we have two variables, say var1 which is 5 and var2. So we can press enter over here, but if you want to run the cell we have to press shift enter. But now I'm not gonna run the cell, so var2 equals to 5. So both the variables are pointing to the same object. Now instead of writing 5, we can also write like this, var1. So both the variables, if I write var1 or if I write var2 equals to 5, both are pointing, or both these statements are pointing to the same value, which is 5. So I am using var1. Now if I print var1 and var2, now if you have to print two things in the same line, you have to give a comma. Now if I print it, it has given me 5 and 5. Now if I want to see or prove that both are pointing to the same object, then here comes the play of, or here comes the role of the id function. So we have to say print id var1 and id var2. So if I now run the cell, it is now pointing to the same memory address. Both the variables are pointing to the same memory address. Now if I change the value of var2, let's say to 7, and then if I run the cell, let me copy it and paste, yes, then if I run the cell, it is pointing to different memory address. Now this is the function of id. So the function of id is, it gives the memory address of a particular object, because after all Python is a object oriented programming language. So everything in Python, each and everything is an object, even the variables, everything is an object. So it is giving the memory address of the object. Now the next thing which we can use is, let's say, first let me comment. We will be learning comment later. So this is, so to give a comment you have just to use the pound symbol. So using id, in this way we can create a comment. We will be learning about comments later. Now after this we can use the id function, or let's say type function, not id, type function. So using type function we will use, let's say var1 is 10. Now let's print var1. So the value of var1 is 10. Now what type is this variable? Now just by looking the variable we can say that it's int type, but let's give this problem to Python. Let's say Python, what is the type of the variable? So to do that we have to print type, which is the default, or it is defined by Python to use by us, so that we can use this function. So print type and then var1, it has given class int. So I just have said that everything is an object, an object is created by class. So this is a very complex topic, objects and classes. We will learn this after learning all the basic like functions, then types, data types, then many more things, many more basic things or basic concepts. After that we will come to object oriented programming. Now let's print the type. Okay, first let me assign a different value to var1. Let's say I will assign a string, let's say var1 is now a string. So let me write like this. So var1 is a string, and if I print now the type of the variable, which is var1, what it should give me? Just think what it should give me. It should give me a string, because in the previous examples we have changed the type. we have changed the type, so it should also change the type of the variable. Now let's see what Python gives, and it is giving str. Now str is the short form of string, so str is a short form of string, so it is a string type. Now in Python there is nothing called char or character type. Everything, if we are using double quotes, anything in double quotes or a single quote or in triple quotes is a string, which is said in Python as str. Now this is all about variables in Python. In the next video we'll be learning about the data types, the basic data types which we should know. So if you like this video, hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, then press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss an update whenever I post a new video, whether it's on Python or on Java or any new subject, so that you don't miss an update. And if you found this video helpful, then you can share it among your friends. So see you in the next video or in the next tutorial. Till then, stay tuned.